Okay, so hello friends. You've heard the news, I'm sure, today. The ESRI, which as you know is an organisation that monitors reports on the Irish economy, has told us today the bad news that we all suspected, that inflation is going to climb further. They reckon to about 8.5% and then at a level of 6.7% across the whole year. I mean, the figures are one thing, but just the reality is that's the highest level of inflation since 1984. And I'm going to suspect that many of you who are tuning into this perhaps weren't even born in 1984. I was. I remember the 80s when I was a kid, and it was hard times. But what's really astonishing is that we hear today from the Minister for Public Expenditure, he's a Fianna Fáiler called Michael McGrath, say again that the government has no plans, repeat, no plans, to do anything additional now to actually ease the cost of living burden for families, for workers, for small businesses as well. People who are stuck to the ceiling because they can't meet their electricity bill or because groceries now are so expensive. And they say that they will have the budget in October, but like October's 7 months away. So we just thought it was important for Pearse and myself to chat this out and to talk to you, because we're going to keep pressure on the government to act now, because we know that people are struggling now. Putting things on the never until 7 months away is no good to people, but also because we have plans and ideas that we've run at, Pearse in particular, really strongly, and we wanted to chat some of that out. But just firstly on Michael McGrath, I mean, I raised the question today, but we're on the benches together. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
Look, it's absolutely crazy. And, you know, what comes in the day, as you say, that the SRI are saying that prices are going to continue to increase for families, for workers out there. Energy is going to continue to increase. We know, we've been talking to some of the suppliers that, you know, gas is going to continue to go up over the course of the year. And people are really struggling the way it is without having these increases. And they doubled down on what Pascal said, and Pascal made those comments last week on the same day that Bord Gáis increased their prices by 39%, putting hundreds of euro additional on families, and him saying, let me be clear, I'm doing nothing more.
And Pascal, by the way, is Pascal Donoghue, the finance minister.
Yeah. So like, this is a government that's completely out of touch, but like, as you said, I think we can move them. That's our job, to make sure that those supports are there for workers and families. It's my view that they didn't, you know, we moved them already earlier on this year. They didn't go far enough, and we know they can't do everything, but they need to do more, and that's absolutely crucial. So our package is very clear. It will lift the burden from workers and families. It will insulate the sharpest edge of what we're experiencing as a result of inflation, and a lot of this we know was here long before the war in Ukraine. Look at rent prices, you know, and sky high childcare costs through the roof. We had inflation running at 5% coming up to the end of last year. We had 30 times suppliers had increased their costs on energy and gas before the end of the year was out. So this was a real pressure on families, and it's going to get worse, and that's why we need a response.
Yeah, and look, we started, as you say, we started with the whole issue of fuel, petrol and diesel, and we went looking for the government to move on excise on that, and they stuttered and stumbled, but they moved at least a little bit. But the other thing that we raised at that time, at the very beginning, was the whole issue of home heating oil. Because it's just extraordinary how that's shot up.
It is, like, so from January you're looking at a fill of home heating oil has gone up between 600 and 700 euro. That's from January of this year.
Crazy.
Families haven't budgeted for that. So, you know, we're hearing the stories, the genuine stories of people saying, you know, that they're not putting on the heating oil because they have to prioritise food in the household, and that's a ridiculous situation that people have been forced into. And what the government decided to do is do nothing on home heating oil. They could have reduced the bill straight away by over 100 euro. Actually, what they're planning to do is worse. They're going to increase the tax on home heating oil on the 1st of May. That just makes no sense whatsoever. So we want excise duty to be removed from home heating oil, but we also want the government to secure the flexibility to reduce VAT on home heating oil. So that's something that we put to Pascal Donoghue back in September. We raised it with him then again and again. the first time they raised this issue was just last week with the European Commission, and again another example of a government that doesn't get where ordinary people are at.
Yeah, for sure. So fuel, heating, all of these things, that's where we started kind of our press for relief, and we're not there, but they're not getting away with this, with saying, too bad, you're going to have to hang on for 7 months. And so we're going to keep working on that. We raised it yesterday, raised it again today, and we're going to keep at that. But the interesting thing about the kind of cost of fuel in particular is it doesn't just affect transport, it's driving now what they call commodity prices. I mean, food, just to put it bluntly. Anyone who's done their shopping, you're feeling it in your basket or in your trolley. But it really is now causing a huge concern, Pearse, around the cost of food and just people's ability not to get the fancy stuff, but to actually to be able to afford the basics.
And that's exactly it. It's the basics, you know, and like the CSO will tell you, like, look at those figures, inflation that you're putting out there, 8.5%, and that doesn't mean a lot for a lot of people out there. They recognise it when they're buying their shopping, when they're putting fuel in their car, when they're trying to heat their homes. But inflation doesn't impact on everybody equally. It impacts on lower income workers and middle income workers harder than those at the top, and that's why we need target support. So we need to have interventions. We want to see cost of living cash payments, €200 for individuals earning below €30,000. So that might mean hundreds of euro going into one family if there's a number of adults.
Because it's an
household.
Individual payment, it's not a household payment.
And that's what they were able to do in the north. It wasn't just for the household, it was for, you know, if there was somebody, you know, a mother and a father, maybe, you know, an adult child, that was £600 sterling they were able to deliver into the north to actually support families at that point in time. And they were able to do that without any tax raising powers, any borrowing powers. We have taxpaying powers, we have borrowing powers. We've actually €3.9 billion set aside for COVID contingency fund that could be used to actually support families and workers now. And that's the type of press that we're going to be putting over the next number of days. So it's those cash payments we want for those middle income earners and for lower income earners at different rates. But you also need to support those who are already feeling the pinch, and that's why the proposal that we've had in terms of putting 1 month's rent back into renters' pockets is more needed now than ever before. So we're going to continue to drive that forward and try and push the government into some type of action.
So the bad news from the SRI today was that inflationary piece, of prices are going up, and folks, that's going to continue. And that needs to be dealt with as we've set out. The good news was that we are in pretty good shape economically, and that we are still going to finish with a surplus. So in other words, still with some cash at hand in the bank. So the government has elbow room. We're not suggesting anything fanciful or anything crazy or anything that can't be done. Like we're not trying to set a test for government that they couldn't possibly meet. We're actually recognising the reality of this awful war and what that has meant globally. We get that. And that's not the responsibility of the government, that's the responsibility of Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation. We acknowledge that. But it's not good enough for the government to say it's all global and there's nothing we can do. There's plenty they can do, and they have the financial space to do it.
And that's it, exactly. We're not blaming the government for this level of inflation. There was issues that, in terms of house prices and rents that they could have dealt with in the past, but this is happening because of global effects, and it's been then turbocharged because of the war in Ukraine. But there is a responsibility on the government to respond back and to protect those that are most vulnerable from those consequences. And this is where there's a dereliction of duty when you have Pascal Donoghue and Michael McGrath, Finance Minister and DPER spokesperson, saying that they're not going to do anything until October at the very earliest. That simply can't hold, and that has to change. So the finances are in a better place. That's what the ESRI are telling us today. At the time of the budget last year in October, compared to where we're going to be next year, there's about €9 billion of improvement. Now, we're not arguing that €9 billion has to all be spent. What we're saying is a portion of that now needs to go back into families' pockets. And remember this, every time that petrol goes up or home heating oil goes up, or indeed even the loaf of bread goes up, the state takes in more money in terms of that. So the state is benefiting from this here, and that's why we need to recycle some of that money back into people's pockets.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's our work now. Our job is, Pearse and I, the whole team, as you know, to represent all of you and to press this forward. So it's not good enough, and it's not real for the government to say we are facing this crisis in prices and inflation, and we're going to sit back and watch it. I mean, I said to them today, you're not spectators, you're not analysts, you're the government, and you need to act. And the response I got was, we will monitor the situation. So let me repeat, government can't be a spectator to people's hardship and misery. There is an obligation to intervene, and there's an obligation on us to represent all of you, but also to bring forward proposals. And Pearse, the team, but Pearse in particular, has done that consistently. Practical measures that can be deliverable, that are affordable, and at this stage, things that are absolutely necessary to ensure that people are warm, that people can get about their business to and from work, that people can put food on the table and can look after their children. Those, if you could ever have a definition of basic, those are the basic requirements. So watch this space, friends, because this is now the issue of this week, this month, this year. This crisis isn't going to go away anytime soon, so we need strong government action. And if they're not prepared to act voluntarily, just be very sure that Sinn Féin is working on your behalf, working hard on your behalf to press them. They can't do everything. We know that. But they can do more, and we're insisting that they will. Thanks for watching.